we knew they were a problem. We knew they were manipulating juries. They were manipulating cases. And this Seventh Amendment was put there by the founders because they had experienced the same kind of abuse, usurpation and abuse and usurpation of powers. That's what it says in the Declaration. It tells you that the judges and such of King George were out of line,
and they had created swarms of new agencies and agents to go out and eat out the substance, to racketeer, to squeeze, to engage in piratical operations of booty taking.
Yeah, they say that you can't sue a federal judge. That is not true. You can sue a federal judge if he does not notice the parties to an action. If it's a controversy between a citizen, now a corporation is different. The judge, he can do anything he wants with a corporation because that's a creature created by the state. But you and I, we were created by a higher power and a creator, and it's our rights come from our creator, not from government. So,
and even if you don't believe in that and you're an atheist, the point is, it is the original organic law which was reestablished under 1215 Magna Carta that is the dominant law that supersedes all new little rules and regulations set up by these little petty bureaucracies that under our system were outlawed.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, when you confront a judge, a prosecutor, or a bureaucrat of any kind with the fact that they are government agents, a federal judge is as much a government agent as an FBI agent or a CIA or whatever. He is a government agent, and therefore he has a conflict of interest. And the judges, they have a code of ethics which very specifically addresses conflicts of interest.
And here's an example. Let's say the judge is sitting over a murder trial where his first cousin was murdered. He would have to recuse himself. But in the case of them being government agents, you can never find someone to replace who's been recused because they are all recused. That's why the founders said we have juries and grand juries, because the judge is literally just a referee, but the dominant force is the jury.
Absolutely, and like I said earlier, we have been so miseducated, and we have been taught not nearly enough to where we can go into the court as a juror and understand how we're supposed to function. Who we are, and as I wrote many years ago in my first book, one informed person on a jury of 12 has more power than the President of the United States, more power than all of the Congress, more power than all of the judges in the courts, because we're sovereign. And see, there's something that we should have learned, and that is that no place in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights is our sovereignty identified like it is in the Seventh Amendment. That's where our sovereignty is confirmed. That's where it is solidified. That's where it tells us about our power, how much power we have.
But there were many other areas that also second that, like the Declaration of Independence and the Second Amendment. That gives us the authorization and the order to defend our friends, our family, our country, and the Declaration of Independence, the power as sovereigns to overthrow a system that has become corrupt, which they said would normally that would happen. But versus the new power that is just force majeure, whatever the better term is, of where they just say, hey, we have set the precedent, we have had notorious and obvious dominance over you, violating the Bill of Rights and Constitution, classical tyranny. They now just say, we don't care if that's the facts and the law. We have men who will kill you. We have hired thugs. So how do you deal with that now that they've gone into a whole new zone where they don't even deny that they are dismantling the country?
You see, the problem is that they went to the same kind of schools that you and I went to, and they learned what they taught in a government school, and so basically our education system in this country is not an education system anymore.
That's right. They're now teaching... They're now
programming.
It's programming. They're now teaching the Second Amendment's a privilege. Traveling is a privilege. They're now teaching speech is a privilege. And I hear police saying this everywhere. I mean, the brainwashing's intensifying.
Well, here's the thing, Alex. A lot of those people know that the system is breaking down, and they don't know what to do about it. And we have to educate them. We have to explain to them how that we were miseducated, we were told lies and propaganda, and now we know how the system was supposed to function, and it's everybody's job, everybody in this country. We have a responsibility to bring this thing back, and I'm an optimist. I've been an optimist forever, and because it isn't any fun being a pessimist. Anyway, I think that there's a lot of government agents right today who are looking for an escape hatch. And we've got it, we found it, and we're going to make it work, I think, if we can just get enough of this information spread around. You know, that sentence that I read to you out of that letter, the Seventh Amendment, common law jury is the highest court in the land because even the 9 justices of the U.S. Supreme Court are government agents. Anybody can understand that. When you call the U.S. Supreme Court judges, if you call them government agents, because they are government employees, they're beneficiaries of the tax laws, and those 9 justices, they went to the same kind of schools we did, and they were taught the same basic bunch of lies and propaganda, and so now our U.S. Supreme Court judges are going to get an education.
Now, I want to go back for people, because we're so close to the problem, Red, that we kind of skip ahead. Yeah. Explain to folks how a jury and a grand jury is supposed to operate versus what they have been gelded and transformed into today.
Well, let me go back to our miseducation. They taught us in high school, in government class. They called it civics when I went to school. Now they call it government classes. They taught us about the system of checks and balances up to a point. They taught us about the Congress, that they were to be a check against the executive and judicial branches of government, and the executive and branch were to be a check against the Congress and the judiciary, and back and forth. They taught us that. That's all they taught, when they should have been teaching us that there were 2 more very, very powerful and very important checks in the system. The grand jury is to be a check against Congress. They are to be a check against the executive branch of government.
That's right. They can haul in the congressmen and senators and the president, as evidenced by a grand jury hauling Bill Clinton in, a grand jury from Arkansas.
He had to answer. He had to answer the questions. And the judiciary, they're not immune. They can be called in too. Now, you got number 4 in the system of checks and balances, the grand jury, and number 5 is the petit jury, the trial jury. And that jury, one informed person on that jury of 12 people, one person that is informed is far more powerful than the 11 who are misinformed.
And that's why the National Bar Association 7 years ago and 5 years ago and 2 years ago at their national conference, the first time in Chicago, called for abolishing juries, and England is in the process of doing it. They have to remove, first they watered it down, made them creatures, bossed them around, turned them into these kept creatures, and then now they're just getting rid of it wholesale. Again, showing the criminality, folks.
Ron Paul, Congressman Ron Paul, who I met back about 1980, the first time. We've been on the platform many times together. he is supposed to have said that if it hadn't been for Red Beckman, we'd have lost the jury system. At this point in time, they're not going to be able to take the jury system away. As much as they would love to take it away, I don't think they can do it for the simple reason.
So they're just threatening and intimidating people into plea bargaining. But go ahead.
Yes, but I think that we have an excellent opportunity. We're going to have an economic catastrophe happen. It's coming down. We're on a slippery slope. There's nothing to hang on to. We're going to go over the precipice here at some point because we've let this thing go too long. But the thing is, we're going to have to pick up the pieces at some point.